What's going on, everyone? Bingo here. I'm with the Duel Factory for episode 34 of X2 Drop, our Yu-Gi-Oh podcast we do every week talking about something we feel like talking about in the Yu-Gi-Oh trading card game or anything to do with it. And this week, we wanted to talk about sub-engines in Yu-Gi-Oh and like what makes them good, what makes them too good, some examples in the past, and what to think about when you're trying to implement them into certain strategies and ones we just personally like. So this idea was Joe's to talk about, and I'm pretty excited because there's a lot of directions this could go. So, Joe, why did you want to talk about this in the first place?
It's one of the more interesting topics you need to talk about because you see it a lot where a lot of decks start picking. One deck will pick up a sub engine, and then people take note, and then they'll start playing in other decks that the sub engine becomes extremely generic for every single deck in Yu-Gi-Oh. And then it gets to a point where it gets a little, and even though the ban neuters it, people still select to play that sub engine over any other engine because even with parts, it's still the most broken engine that you can play with your ongoing strategy.
Okay. And before I continue, guys, I just want to say my setup is garbage. My internet is garbage. Shout out to Mediacom who didn't show up to our appointment for installing internet and moved it back a week. So I'm using a cell hotspot. So if there's any drop frames or any audio that doesn't come through, you can thank them. But like you're saying, sub engines are just super important when deck building, right? Like what you very rarely see just straight up pure decks anymore because a lot of the time the archetype might be good. It might have strengths, but it also archetypes are built to be balanced, right?
Exactly.
So you need a supplemental engine that either mitigates those weaknesses or exploits the strengths of the deck enough to justify bringing that deck to a 13-round tournament and expecting to do well.
You're 100%. One of the examples that we can go with, honestly, that it's more recent and people would be more familiar with would be like the Thunder Dragon deck. We've seen an actual like there's the pure Thunder deck, which is the popular build of it right now, and then we've seen Thunder go to a supplementary engine for Guard Dragon strategies. We've seen the Thunder Dragon deck supplemented by a Danger engine, even though the Danger engine's now gone. The good ones have all gone down. The two people are still electing to play in a lot of decks. The Guard Dragon engine you're paying away from, but people are still playing Thunder Guard Dragon and stuff like that.
Yeah, just speaking on Thunder has gone...
Just because, like you were saying, there's a lot of flaws in the actual main strategy that a supplementary engine can fix. And even with cards missing from that supplementary engine, people still decide to play it with those cards just because those cards do better than what anything else can do in the game. Like, take a look. Like, if you take a look at the whole and stuff like that, just for example, we'll go with Thunder again. A lot of them are playing the Guard Dragon engine, and I've been watching YCS London this weekend. I'm watching the Thunder player in round 9. He was still electing to play that engine because what it did was insane. Because you got new cards to play with it, even though like Wyver Bursters at 1, Collapse Serpents at 1, Agripane's gone, and Red Med's still at 1 and stuff like that. Like the engine was providing such insane setup that it's so warranted playing it in.
Yeah. So Thunder has gone through so many iterations since release. Obviously, you had Pure, and then you had the Brilliant engine and the Danger variant, the Guard Dragon variant. And that is because Pure Thunder Dragon, like, it's a solid deck. It can stand on its own. It has its strengths. It has its weaknesses. But there are so many ways to abuse the mechanics in Thunder that if you don't play a sub-engine, most of the time now, there's very brief periods where Pure Thunder is, the call, but most of the time you're at a disadvantage just opting to play Pure Thunder Dragon. Like you were saying with Starliege Safer, even though Argipane's banned, like there are some ridiculous setups that you can do that still involve ripping 2 cards out of your opponent's hand and setting up with your standard play Double Colossus, rank 8 or something like that.
like what the guy was doing yesterday. Just to give you an example, he used the danger cards and stuff like that, and he got to what was it? He got to Appaloosa first, and then he started doing guard dragon combos after that because he had the Starlead's safer, which it turned into the. No, I'm sorry. He was playing the IB engine, which was able to get him all the way to Appaloosa. Then used the. He was playing the World Legacy guard dragon, and then banished that after he made the Appaloosa to get the Galaxy Serpent out of the deck, not out of the deck, but out of the grave. Then turned into LP, and then got Starlead safer, and then this was the cool play because he had the Starlead safer, and he discarded Levianeer to get Diabolos, and then was able to recycle Levianeer. Then he was doing insane stuff. Like it was just ridiculous. Like I couldn't believe what I was watching. Because then he ended on like an Appaloosa with 3 negations. He had 38. He had Colossus. Like Thunder was like a good deck already, but then like the supplement, in my opinion, is what took to the next level. And then you see him get neutered, and like it's still like making it a tier 1 deck. So it was just crazy.
Yeah, I think the Guard Dragon engine, LP Pisty, when they first came out, like it wasn't as crazy. Like you would essentially just end up going through cycling with Saryuja to draw more cards to set up the rest of your board. But now I think the Guard Dragon engine, even with the loss of Argapane, has so many tools and so many extra deck monsters as well as main deck monsters to abuse that I think it's starting to get to the point where it's just like needs to go away. Now, obviously, we have it for the next 3 months, so we'll be able to abuse cards like Seifert. And I don't even think Brotar is being played anymore because of that card, because it just basically does what Brotar did, but has also added utility. Now, it doesn't do the exact same thing. Like, I'm not an idiot, but it does a lot.
Even in its watered down version, the engine's still insane. You just say like that's like the point. That's like the point putting out. Like it's been like you took away stuff from it, and the people are still opting to play it because it's the best supplementary engine that you can play in that particular strategy. I won that if you want to take it all the way back, like we'll say like 2011, 2012 formats. And the plant engine is a good one to look. So we had 3 Lone Fire Blossom for the longest time and stuff like that, and then cards like Spore, Dandelion, Glow Up Bulb, and all that stuff. And then you saw cards from the plant engine start getting hit, right? Like Lone Fire at one point went to 1, Glow Up Bulb was banned. I don't know why, but Spore was put to 1, even though you would only resolve 1 Spore in a turn or something like that. And now in modern Yu-Gi-Oh, Dandelion's gone for good reason. But for the longest time, a lot of decks were playing the plant engine as a subsidiary engine just because it was the best mechanic to abuse with Synchro Monster. And then you look a little further, and then the plant engine became the best engine to play in Sylvan decks, and then it became the best to play in Brilliant Fusion as strategies and stuff like that, so on and so forth. So, but then it also got new cards to play with, like Predator Plant, Orphis Scorpio. Was Lone Fire Blossom went back to 3, so Gigavice decks became more popular and stuff like that, which was really just Lone Fire somehow getting Gigaplant out and stuff like that. Like, it was a really cool. It's a engine that's been Yu-Gi-Oh, and it's more of a sub engine, but over the time, it's just one of those engines that lasted over time, and it's still a very good engine today. I mean, you don't have like Dandelion and stuff like that, but like it gets Predator Plant, Orphis Scorpio, which gets Brilliant Fusion, Instant Fusion. Some people with the new Blue Eyes deck are playing the D-Fusion build, which don't know why. It could also search Magicalized Fusion, which I think that's really interesting. You could also search Shaddoll Fusion. Like the engine itself gets a lot of mileage in modern day Yu-Gi-Oh! That a lot of people would play in like Rogue-esque strategies and stuff like that. And then back in the day, like, I mean, there's Tengu Plants, which is more or less just 4 plant cards, a bunch of Tengu cards, and, hand trap.
Yeah, so when you're looking at sub-engines, like the plant engine, obviously, it's still, there are pieces to that engine that will never be back, like Dandelion. Dandelion is just an insane broken, given its current text, that can never, ever be legal during Master Rule 4. But the engine it got watered down over time, and now I wouldn't say it's broken by any means. It's just a good engine, mostly for rogue decks or just to experiment with. And you'll see that a lot with like the sub engines, like you were talking about earlier off screen, the Perform Age engine, like the Clown engine. Like, it used to be absolutely insane, and it was just like rank 4 spam. And now it's almost at full power. Damage Juggler's still at 2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's come back, and it's still viable. It's still something a deck can abuse, but it didn't stand the test of time like some of these will. And some examples of just extremely overpowered engines that should never be back at full power, I think, are Zodiac Rapier, and just the Zoo engine in general, the Orcus engine in general. And obviously, those are the two most recent examples of cards that I just think can never, ever be at full power.
No, I feel on that one. Just give you a little history. Like, the tail end of 2015 format where you had, like, Necrosh at all and all those fun decks, that was a really, really interesting time in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because, like you were saying, you were playing clowns and everything. They had the most all because it was the best light engine to abuse Shaddoll Fusion with. And just recently, Construct went to 3, and that's still the go-to engine. But that's not the only use it got. So in Necros, the clown engine was really, really interesting that you could play, because if you played the clowns, it was like playing more Shritz specifically for Unicorn. And it paired really well with Unicorn because it was also a spell counter. So you had flexibility there because you could also play cards like Trapeze Magician in a deck that could already OTK very, very easily back in 2015. And then you played it. It had its own deck essentially, which was just basically just more or less, they called it Clown Blade, which you played the Clown engine,
Challenger,
1,000 Blades and stuff like that. And we didn't get it with Lavalval Chain, otherwise that would have been insane. But you had your own version of the deck, and it's just like you were just playing clowns and everything because they fit with everything. And then Pepe came out, and that's when finally Konami took the axe to the Perform Age engine and took away Damage Juggler, which hurt a lot. But you were still seeing the clowns being cards like Brilliant Fusion and stuff like that because they just work the best with those decks. And then you just mentioned Zoo, which Zoo to me is like, it's interesting when you think about it, right? Because it's probably one of the most prolific archetypes we've had in Yu-Gi-Oh! In a long time. But it could be subsidized and played in every single deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because there wasn't a single deck that didn't benefit from Zoo comp. And that's insane.
Yeah, you can play a deck with, I mean, let's just go back to pre-Maximum Crisis. You could play 3 Rat, 3 Thoroughblade, 3 Whiptail, 3 Barrage, or you could play a grass deck with, 3 Barrage, I think 2 Rat at the time, and like 1 Whiptail. And it was the same potency because you still had access to Brawl Bull, you still had access to Trident, and at the time the grass decks were legal, you had access to like Chaka 9 to bring your Zoo cards back. And they're all generic, not all of them, but Brawl Bull is generic rank 2, Chaka 9 was generic rank 4. I don't know why I said rank 2, requiring 2 monsters, not 5 like Trident.
It's crazy if you think about it, because like even if you weren't playing the Zoo engine, you could still play the XYZs. Like you're saying, Brawl Bull was generic, so you could play it. I think where a lot of people started seeing some of that kind of stuff were in like the 60 card Light Sworn decks when Grass came out, and then you could play like Light Sworn Zombie again and stuff like that, which that was popular for a couple events. Yeah. But one of the ending plays is you could overlay any 2 level 4s to make Broad Bull, then Broad Bull would search Arcus, the Light Sworn Druid, which paired really well with Solar Recharge in your deck, because now you could turn on your draw spell for any 2 level 4 and stuff like that, and that was insane. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah,
and then
go ahead.
I saw some Dino players too, is another way to look at it, is they were playing Barrage as another way to pop a baby dinosaur other than Diagram. So you could go like Barrage Baby Ceresaurus, and that's not only full zoo combo, but that's also a full dino, and that's like crazy.
Yeah, and I think the Zoo engine is just an engine that gets better with time versus getting worse with time because Master Rule 4, like, imagine you did have 3 Rat and access to Broad Bowl and Dryden, just one, let's say one of them. Like, the amount of stuff you can do, being able to destroy a card for free, or if you don't have a card to destroy, just destroy Barrage, start full Zoo combo, get 3 to 4 link material per turn, depending on how you set up, and still ending on a pop for free.
Yeah, like that one little engine did so much for every single archetype. It's just actually crazy.
Yeah, and that was I mean, we did have Zoo a little bit in Master Rule 4, but we had 2 Rat, and best link monster was Mrs. Radiant, so we didn't get to mess around with it too much.
It would have been crazy if we had all the link monsters, especially like if you had like full power, like with Firewall and stuff.
Yeah, Summon Sork, Firewall. Like, Summon Sork would have been nuts because you would have been able to play cards like Reborn Tengu, and like Summon Sork doesn't limit you from what you can do with that monster, so you can just overlay with it or synchro with it. Like, there's so many. I don't even want to think about it. Like, it's actually scary.
I mean, we're kind of living it now, if you kind of think about it, especially because remember, we've had that brief period where Orcus could be played in anything.
Yeah, and I think those are the best comparisons as Zoo and Orcus because they're not identical in function, but they're identical in splashability.
Well, yeah, it's insane because you could play. I mean, any deck that can play that was able to play Mermaid could just play the Orcus engine. Like it was ridiculous. You could play it in any single deck, and it just raised the ceiling like to an insane level. Like you had the Orcus deck that came out at YCS Chicago that Ed Deception was playing. He's like, wait a minute, we can play these cards in a lot of other decks. And then like think of all the Orcus deck we've seen come to life at that. There was the ones that stand out the most to me, right, is because they're available to us because the engine we just recently had Mermaid banned, so we saw these decks a lot. But you had Cyber Dragon Orcus, you had Lunalight Orcus, which Jesse Cotton's playing at London, and that deck's still insane without.
Yeah. Lunalight Orcus is still just bonkers. Like, it can do, like, the Lunalight cards by themselves generate so much advantage. Like, just being able to push through card effects and just spam the board. Like, it's ridiculous. All right. Sorry, I just played them yesterday.
You're fine.
I had to get that.
I mean, like, you pair it with Orcus, and, like, it just becomes even more insane. I mean, like, you still have Curious, which is still full Orcus combo, but we're not going to get into that. Another deck that you've seen that pair well with, but not Mermaid's Con, so I don't know how it was, but like the Spiral Orcus deck, like people were like, it brought Spiral back for a little bit. Like that was a little.
Yeah, you were ending on Sleeper, Crescendo. I forget what else, but like that by itself is like pretty scary.
It is very scary. This is insane. Like you just see like these engines, like the whole reason, like, well, I don't want to say that's the reason, but like it didn't get as much attention, but because the Orcus engine played it so well, like Bardiche is gone, the Rank Up Magic, Phantom Knight's launch is gone. Like Summon Sork had to go, but like that was the deck that was abusing Summon Sork the most. Like,
oh man,
this is crazy.
Yeah, so
that one small engine.
Let's go over some historically like crazy engines, and then let's go into the modern engines, and then certain engines you can abuse in rogue decks. Because I do like to talk about some rogue here and there. So what would you say your favorite sub-engine from the past has been?
One of my favorite sub-engines, like it was one of the best decks of Yu-Gi-Oh! Then it became a sub-engine, then it became a main deck again because Soul Church came out and stuff like that. But the Dragon Ruler engine was like, it really was. Like, yes, it made its own deck and it was probably one of the most prolific decks. But when you break it down to just the actual dragons and stuff itself, the rulers, when you still had them, got put in a lot of different strategies. Like, for example, Tidal was probably one of the best cards we ever played in Mermail, just because it was a recurring level 7 water that you can bring back every single turn, and it would let you combo. Like, you could discard it with Gund and any Mermail monster, to send any level 7 and then bring it back to start off your combos and stuff like that. Like that was insane. Redux and Scraps, that card was broken. And then you could also play it in decks like Gadget, Gear Gear. To some extent, you could play it in Dolce, but it didn't mesh that well. But people were playing it for a little bit because it was a free Monster Reborn. So on and so forth. Tempest could be played in any win strategy. Dragoonity was being the most prolific. If any of you guys remember Dragoonity rulers, like the Dragoonity was the main part of the deck, and then the ruler part was just a sub engine at that point when it was neutered. Like so on and so forth, and then like you can make your own deck out of it, especially when they're all at one apiece. But like they were just like the perfect one. I was like Blaster was put Inferno and stuff like that. Like that, it was a main engine, it was a sub engine, like it did it. And that to me is like one of the most prolific like sub engine I put in, because it did become that until all the cards like went to one and stuff like that. That was insane to me.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see all the rulers back. I don't know what it would take to get that, but they're cards I never got to play with outside of like, let's play with banned cards just for fun. And I really like what they do for, like you're saying, not just a deck as themselves, but for Mermail or water-based decks or earth-based decks. It's just a good, solid, semi-generic card that you can put in there to accomplish something. And I really do want to see them back. But if I had to pick one engine, it's definitely not meta-defining until, I guess, 2018. Brilliant Fusion, that's one of my favorite engines, mostly just speaking on Rogue, because you get to just normal summon for free again. And it's not the most broken thing, but having access to Fairy Tail Snow and Thunder Dragon with Brilliant Fusion, that kind of put it over the limit, right?
Brilliant Fusion is just one of those cards. Like, it was like, I'm not saying like it was like the most broken, but like it cracked a lot of decks wide open whenever you resolved it. Like,
yeah, I don't know how many times you go and see a replay or like somebody would want you to check out their deck and it would just be resolve Brilliant Fusion or do nothing. But when you resolve Brilliant Fusion, like it's just this insane, crazy combo that ends with everything.
Just to give you an idea of like the history of Brilliant Fusion, like I remember where you first really saw it break out. Well, not break out, but where it was start seeing some play. Patrick Hoban was playing it at a YCS, and he was playing it in Shadal, and that's when it started getting attention because it was just a way to get access to your clown, because that's specifically what he was using it for. He thought it was powerful enough that it warranted playing it in that deck because it got you to one of the main problems the deck has was not getting access to its light monsters and like being able to play more Foolish Berry. Damage Strangler seemed really good, is how he explained it in the video. And then Brilliant Fusion started seen playing other decks like Necros and stuff like that, and it broke the deck wide open because like having two normal summons in that deck and being able to summon two Manjus or two Senjus in a turn was like insane. It was like that's two free searches and a rank 4, and then like you keep going. And one of the decks I think it got was the most insane in was like Monarch, because like you could send Idea and get a free add back from your banished pile, like Pantheism. You could have having two normal summons in that deck was insane because that being able to tribute summon twice was just broken. Like it just broke the deck wide open at that point, but it still didn't get touched. And then like you keep going on for it, and then we got cards like Predaplant Wolf for Scorpio, and then finally the final like nail in the coffin is when you started playing it in Thunder, like you said. And it wasn't that it was like insane in Thunder, because like at first we were just using it to summon Prismora to be able to combo off and stuff like that. But then people were like, nah, fam, we can sit in Fairy Tail Snow, and that triggers all Thunder Dragon effects during either player's turn.
Yeah.
That's when it got to be too much.
And that's why I would argue that Brilliant Fusion can come back to 3 with Snow being banned. But it gives you an additional normal, it gives you a body on board. It's Master Rule 4. We keep getting these crazier and crazier Link monsters, so I don't know, maybe not. But I'd like to think so, because Brilliant Fusion in Invoked is one of my favorite things to play ever because you get to normal summon Alistair twice and it feels so good.
Nor something else for choice. It does feel pretty good. But like, it also lets you do that sweet combo, and it gives you it affords you another way of being able to go first in that deck, which the Mech Knight Invoked version is the best version to play currently, and like, you need more plays to go first. Like, Almirage is a good start, but Brilliant Fusion would make that strategy a lot better. But like,
yeah, setting up.
I don't know.
It's just not enough. You know.
Exactly. It's one of those things. Like, if you put that card back to 3, it cracks a lot of strategies wide open. But I don't know if it's safe to come back at 3. But like, a lot of the cards that you could abuse with it are gone now. So I'm not 100% sure. I think it being at 1 though, like, it future-proofs the game, and that's what you kind of need.
Yeah.
But like, it's just a really good sub engine, like you said. Like, I think it's a fair sub engine because you have to play Garnet. And like, don't get me wrong, Brilliant Fusion, when it resolves, like, it's busted. That's why it's at 1. But like,
and then you open 2 Brilliant Fusion and Garnet, and you're like, oh my god, why am I playing this?
I hate playing that card.
Yeah, and like, yes, you can still utilize it through the like Protoplant engine or Lone Fire Blossom in a Protoplant engine, but like, that's so high risk already that it's almost not worth doing because you have to discard a card its cost for Scorpio. Then you have to play 2 bricks that if you draw either of them, you're not going to play the game. Or if you, let's say you just hard open Brilliant Fusion, that's like 9 dead cards in your deck because of the Protoplant engine, and it's just too much.
It's just when you look at it, it's the perfect example of a high risk, high reward engine. Like, there's a lot of risk to playing it, but what, like, the payoff is insane of what it provides. So that's like how a lot of sub engines in Yu-Gi-Oh are. Like, they're just high risk, high reward.
And I would say those are the more fair ones. When you have like the low risk, like medium reward, like let's just, we haven't talked about it at all. The Danger sub engine, like, it doesn't do anything absurdly unfair, but what it does well, and it provides a utility for decks that can abuse it. Like, let's just say Lunalight Orcus. They can abuse the Lunalight engine to make Azathoth, and then they summon 2 Dangers, and that's full Orcus combo because of Curious.
Yeah, because of Curious. Like, the fact that they're all like the same attribute, different type, like, that's crazy. Like, at least like with a lot of sub engine Yu-Gi-Oh, like, at least they're like all like same type or all same attribute or something like that. So like, but then again, you can't look that far into the future because no one saw like Curious, like, oh, it takes 3 monsters with different attributes, and not different attributes, but same attribute but different type and stuff like that. And then Danger came along, and you're like, this might be a problem.
Yeah,
because like Curious is insane. On paper, it doesn't, in practice. Curious just does a lot of stuff. Like, a lot.
It's just Lavalval Chain that adds any card from your grave to your hand if it's destroyed.
More or less.
And
like, it's just,
that's, yeah, it actually kind of blows my mind that Curious isn't abused more. Like, I know it is quite difficult to make outside of the Danger engine for a lot of decks, and it's almost not worth it, but like, what it does there's, other than Foolish Burial, or what's that new Peaceful Burial trap card that we just got, like, how hard is it to send any card from your deck to your grave?
I mean, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, look at it this way. It's like the perfect example of sub-engine. Like, if you're playing a combo deck and you need extenders, I know that's like those are the go-to cards to go to, is just Danger, because like, they do everything you want. Like, they put extra bodies on the board, they get you deeper into your deck, and like, by playing them, you have access to cards that like combo decks want to play. Like, it's crazy.
I know we all like to rag on Konami and like, why'd they print the Danger engine, but let's just thank them for a little, like, 1 second, that they didn't give us a Dragon level 4 or lower Danger monster.
That would have been ridiculous. Like, you already have like Nessie and Jackalope, which are guaranteed searching, guaranteed summons out of the deck. But just imagine just having a level 4 Dragon.
Yeah, just imagine. Let's say Chupacabra. Just make Chupacabra a dragon. Same effect, same everything. The card's broken because of the Guard Dragon engine.
That card's banned at that point, because like, Chupacabra was already a monster reborn. It's already level 4. and it's dark, and then you're going to make it a dragon on top of that? No, it's banned. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Like, that can't happen. Because, like, not only is it, like, one of the best extender engine, then it becomes, like, the best subsidiary engine for Guard Dragon, which Guard Dragon's already a subsidiary engine. Bruh.
All right, we're pretty much at time. Guys, sub-engines is a massive part of deck building and Yu-Gi-Oh! In general. There's so much we could talk about. Like, I honestly wanted to continue because we could just keep going on and on about, you know, engines we've utilized in the past and what our favorite ones are. But we only have 30 minutes every week. So if you have enjoyed this podcast, check us out again next week. Joe, do you have any final closing thoughts you want to do?
Like I said, we could probably go on forever and ever and stuff like that, but like sub engines are just disappointing, are just as important as main engines in Yu-Gi-Oh! Just keep that in mind whenever you're deck building. Also, Douglas French has no sauce.
There it is.
Piccolo, you have no sauce. Hey.
All right, everybody. Like I said, if you have enjoyed us, please check us out again next week, 8 o'clock every Monday, iTunes, Google Play, 10 a.m. on YouTube. I'm not going to get this up on YouTube probably for till I have internet, because if I upload an HD video under my cell service or my hotspot, it's going to take forever. But check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/bingohd, youtube.com/theduelfactory. And with that being said, I'll see you guys next week. Peace out.
Okay, bye.